Mr.
Okay,
Chairman,
I have 7 p.m. Are we all set, Mary?
we're recording live on YouTube and live streaming on the planning and zoning.
All right, thank you. I'll read the legal notice. Applications to be heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals in web-based meeting hosted on Zoom on July 8th, 2021. And just to reiterate, pursuant to order number 71, section 19.c, notice is hereby given that items number 21-26, that's 5777 Jones Hill Road, 2127, that's 23 Maple Ridge, 2128, 17 Robin Hood, 2129, that's Myrie Brook Road. Also to be heard this evening, continued or carried over from the last meeting are 21-24 4 Lake Road and 21-2533 Robin Hood Road. Is there a motion to hear the aforementioned applications?
I make a motion to hear 2126, 2127, 2128, 2129, and 2124, 2125 continuation.
All right, motion made by Mr. Hannah. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sibbett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. For the record, and for the sake of being in our little boxes, I am Rod Moore, acting chairman. I'm also going to do a roll call for the other members of the board. Just please acknowledge when I say your name. Mr. Hannah.
Here.
Mr. Rivas.
Present.
Mr. Sibbett.
Present.
Mr. Yes.
DeLucia.
Mr. DeLucia, you're right in the middle of the screen. That's why I can't see you. Mr. DeLucia.
Present.
Okay, all present and accounted for. Thank you. First item on the business is acceptance of the minutes from June 24th. I trust we've all read them thoroughly. There's a motion to accept the meetings of June 24th. We have what we need, don't we, Mary? We have, yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
We do.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from June 24th, 2021.
All right, motion by Mr. DeLucia.
I second that motion.
A second by Mr. Rivas. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are accepted. Before we go into the public hearings, let me just restate that each public hearing that's held, the applicant will come up and state their case. And then there may be some questions from the board, and then an opportunity for anyone who's here to speak in favor of the application can do so at that time. Anyone here that's to speak in opposition, at that point in time, if there's any opposition, the applicant has one chance to come back and rebut or explain whatever the case may be. Also, the voting is, there are 5 members on the board. It takes 4 out of 5 to vote for either approving an application or denying an application. So it's not just a simple majority in that regard. Excuse me. Once the public hearing is closed for your application, we cannot accept nor can we ask for any further information from the applicant. We may have some technical questions of someone from the city staff, but other than that, once it's closed and public input is complete at that point. At that point, we'll also go into a voting session for each application as we go forward. So number 1 up on the agenda is 21-26, Ward Mizuko Esquire, agent for 57-77 Jones Hill Road. I see Mr. Mizuko is here, so please make your case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you this evening. I'm here on behalf of Isidore and Louise Sindel with respect to their property at 57 Jones Hill Road. It's a 2-acre parcel, and the issue here tonight is a pool in a front yard. It would probably help if you'd allow me to share my screen. I can pull up some slides that will help illustrate what we're looking to do. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yep, go ahead.
May I interrupt for a moment?
Yeah.
Mr. Mizuko, it's a little difficult to hear you. It's not as clear as it usually is from your speaker. So if you could maybe make an adjustment or something.
Thank you. I'll try to do that right now.
Thank you.
Well, I'll at least talk more loudly, and if that doesn't work, let me know and I'll try something else.
All right. Do you have an external microphone or using the microphone on the computer?
I thought I had an external microphone, but let me,
It sounds like you're a long ways from it, whatever the case may be.
okay.
How about this? Is that any better?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's much better.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry about that inconvenience. Okay, so here on behalf of the Sindells, and this is an aerial view of the property in question. Here is Joe's Hill Road. Here's Tanglewood. Here's their home. And the issue is the fact that there is a front yard over here and a front yard across here. And as you know, a pool, among other things, cannot be installed in a front yard. While I'm on this slide, I just want to point out the screening that exists here by virtue of trees that have been planted, and screening here because of existing vegetation. So again, your section 3G, 3D, that is, pardon me, says that detached buildings, structures, and uses accessory to dwellings in residential districts shall be subject to the following restrictions. And it says that, among other things, a swimming pool may not be located within the front yard setback. Well, within the front yard. The hardship here is that this is a corner lot with two front yards. There's a septic system that's in place and occupies area that obviously the pool could not go in. The dwelling is far from Tanglewood Drive, and I'll show you why that matters in a moment. And the health code requires that any in-ground swimming pool has to be at least 25 feet from the septic tank, septic leaching fields, and there's another distance requirement for the home itself. If we go back to this plan, and you'll see this more clearly on others, the pool is proposed to be in this area, and the septic occupies this area. And if we were to try to put the pool anywhere along the edges, it would interfere with some of the very screening that protects the neighbors. So to show that a little more clearly, this isn't oriented the same way. Again, here's Joe's Hill, here's Tanglewood, here's the house, and here's the pool. The front yard is the area between the house and the road, here and here. It paradoxically, if the house had been moved closer to Tanglewood, this wouldn't be front yard, and it would be perfectly allowable. In other words, there's 115 feet of distance from the house to Tanglewood. If, as the regulations allow, the house had been built over here, let's say 50 feet off of Tanglewood Drive, which is the zoning setback minimum, the pool would have been perfectly allowable because it would not have been within the front yard, the area between the house and the road. But because the house is set back here, this becomes front yard, and the pool lies within it. And I would hasten to point out that the pool does not lie within the required setback, but rather within the front yard. So it's a subtle difference, but it shows that it's really the placement of the house that affects the placement of the pool. And this brings it home a little bit better. Again, here's Tanglewood, here's Joe's Hill, just a different orientation. And these blue lines roughly show how much front yard are created by the location of the house. And those front yards are areas where the pool cannot be located. And again, the septic area is back in here. This is the pool has been excavated, and that's because the Sindells did not realize at first that there would be a problem with the location. Of course, they ceased construction as soon as they realized that there was a problem. But the house would be back to the left here. This is a view toward Tanglewood, and there, as you can see, there's abundant screening. And to move the house, moving the pool to the right or to the back or to the north would not help because that's all front yard. And if anything, it would at some point interfere with the screening itself. Here's another view facing again toward Tanglewood, and it shows you the septic area in the foreground and mature plantings that you would not want to disturb with a pool toward the rear. And even then, this is still in the front yard. This shows the situation even a little more clearly. Of course, the house on the left, natural screening on the right, and with a slope that would require grading and the loss of mature trees, plus encroachment on the septic area in order to relocate the pool. So turning back to this plan, you can see that there is, as you recall from the other photograph, screening all along here, natural screening here, septic area in the middle. There's really no other place to locate the pool. If this was not another road, this would be perfectly allowable. It would be within the side yard and the rear yard. But because there are two front yards, the location of the pool does become a problem. So that explains in a nutshell what the situation is, and I would be happy to entertain any questions.
All right, thank you. My first reaction in seeing this until I went out there is, well, where is the septic? And it was well staked out, clearly identified. I guess the city or somebody staked it out, so it's pretty well enunciated there. Also, as you have already stated, I found that the only house that really could see any of this is the one that's in the, well, side yard or rear yard, depending on which street you're standing on. But that one, yes, that lot right there. As you said, in fact, I think there's even maybe more screening higher than there was that's in that picture. So that seemed to be satisfactory to me. But those are my comments. I don't think I have any questions. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I saw it too. It's the only logical place. And technically, because of the two front yards, the only thing I would have required is it to buffer along the Tanglewood side, which it already is. Those I'm not sure if they're arborvitaes, what they are, but they're like at least 20 feet tall.
Mhm.
It looks good to me. Looks like the only logical choice. Yeah, exactly right there.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any questions from the board or comments? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak as opposed to this application? None of the above. All right. Well, with that said, if we've satisfied our questions and comments and there's nothing else coming from the public, I'll ask for a motion to close public hearing on 21-26.
Make a motion to close the hearing on 21-26.
All right, Mr. Hannah makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sibbett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We have a motion to go into voting session on this application.
I make a motion to go on a voting session on 21-26.
Mr. Hannah, and there's a second from?
I second that motion.
Second from Mr. Rivas, I believe. We'll call it Mr. Rivas for now. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. We have had some comments presented by the board and certainly by Mr. Mizuko. Is there anyone wants to say, or is there anyone who is interested in making a motion?
I agree with Mr. DeLucia and Mr. Moore's comments of where the poll's going and with the buffer. I don't mind making a motion to accept this. So
All right.
make a motion to accept application 2126, 57 Joe's Hill Road, RA 80 zone, section 3.G3 D, allow construction of a swimming pool in the front yard as per plan submitted.
I second that motion.
Second by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show that was unanimous. Okay. Moving
Thank you all
on to
very much.
21-27. 2127 is an application, 23 Maple Ridge Road in an RA 20 zone. This is to reduce minimum side yard setback from 15 feet to 6.9 feet and increase maximum building coverage from 20% to 23%. Is there someone here to speak, the applicant or someone here to speak on their behalf? Anyone here on this application?
You have to turn your mic
Yeah.
on.
Valmar, you have to turn
All
your,
right, good evening, everyone. Sorry about that. Name is Valmar from Franket Group. I'm here representing Mr. Juan Vasquez on his application. If that's okay, Mary, just try to share screen here. Right, so Mr. Vasquez needs to do some modifications to his residence and open it up and increase the size of it due to court order for one of his son. I think it's his son. And the goal here is to create spaces that the child can grow into and open everything else up that so he's comfortable enough and there's nothing there that is dangerous to him as he grows. So this was driven by the fact that he needed to create a big bedroom for him with ADA standards, and that in itself limited us from creating a second story and going up. So we had to stay within the first floor of this, and we're developing this. We're trying to keep the majority of it within the proper setbacks, but no matter what we did, it drove us to have to increase the size to fill in a couple areas there that are non-compliant. So you can see here, the shaded part is the parts of the single-story additions, and the white is the existing residence. So in the front of the house, we're asking to give us setback there to close that corner in, but none of the areas where we're doing those additions that are not within the proper setbacks, none of them are going past the existing footprint of the existing house. So anywhere that we're asking for those bump ins, the extent of the addition never goes. It aligns with the existing footprint and never goes past it. And then the bulk of what we're doing in the back there, we are within the required setbacks. And the other request for the coverage goes back to the similar hardship, which is having an undersized lot for the zone that they're in and somewhat of an odd shape. And we're just over the coverage. Yeah, so we're really asking for 3.7% over the 20% allowed.
All right, I have a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
There's an enclosed porch that over on right there. That's going to become a year-round. It's going to be on the exact same footprint as that enclosed porch is right now.
Yes, exact same footprint, and then it just becomes part of the house there to create the open living space.
All right. The other question is the survey map that I have does not have one of those dark areas, that front porch area.
Right, they're missing the front porch. I'm gonna have them modify that to include it, but it's within the setbacks, but that's what throws us over the coverage.
Okay. So the number that's on the application of 23.7, that's accurate and includes that front porch area?
Correct.
Okay. All right. All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. Is this addition going to be handicap compliant?
So the kind of the function of that front porch is if he ever needs a ramp, that it would be able to tie into the that front porch, being able to create three looped ramp from the driveway going up there. That'll facilitate to tie that into.
No, the reason I ask is in part, is this addition because of a handicapped person that might be dwelling there?
Yes. So something happened that the child was injured, and this is all being driven and already was approved by the judge in the courts. So this is our next step, is going to the town. Yeah.
So the space, are you going to stay 4 bedrooms, or is that going to increase?
Nope. It's going to stay what it is, because we removed the one of the bedrooms there to create the bigger space there, to move the kitchen to where one of those bedrooms were. So it's the bedroom count remains the same.
I have a question. What is the current square footage of the house now, and what is the square footage being added to the with the addition?
All right, I thought I had those numbers up here somewhere. 1 second. One other piece there. 585 square feet in the back.
That's the addition to the back,
Yeah.
585. Okay.
60 in the front corner.
Okay.
What would the total square footage be? Would you have those numbers for I think like Mr. Rivas asked?
I guess you're plotting each section to add them up. Is that right?
No, I was just gonna pull up the here.
Okay.
1,056.
1,056 is the original.
Yeah, that's what
footprint.
that's what the tax assessor says. Yes.
Okay.
Incidentally, the tax assessor says 2 bedrooms and 3 full baths. So in the end, when this is done, you're going to have 3 bedrooms and
3 bedrooms.
3 baths, or more, or 4 baths.
No, 2 baths.
2 baths.
3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
All right. Well, I know the tax assessor is never wrong, but it says 3 full baths on the field card. But anyway,
Oh, well, yeah, there's a full bath in the basement.
and the basement. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
So yeah, so the total, so it's 1,056 square feet now, and there would be 1701 with the additions.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Sorry for the-
No, no problems.
Any other questions? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application?
I
Is
did
it-
email Mary a letter from the adjacent neighbor there.
Yes,
David.
I have that here.
Great.
That's in opposition, unless you have something that's in favor.
Oh,
in the letter.
yeah, in favor, with the
Okay.
neighbor to the right here.
All right.
I just emailed it to her right before the meeting.
Okay. Do you want to read it into the record?
Sure. So it's from Mr. Guy Farland, dated July 6th, 2021, to the Zoning Board of Appeals, City of Danbury. Letter in support of Juan C. Vasquez's variance request. I, Guy McFarland of 21 Maple Ridge Road, Danbury, neighbor Juan Vasquez, would like to express my support of his proposed project and variance request. Mr. Vasquez has shared his plans and hardship for this request, and I have no objections.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor? All right. I have a letter of opposition, which I'll read into the record. And if that person is here, they can certainly endorse it, or if there's anyone else that has opposition. But first, I'll just read this letter for the record. This is from Cheryl Adams, 11 Farm Street. I think if you look up on the plot plan, it's in the north west corner of the back of 23 Maple. That's the abutting property there. And she says, I received notice on July 26th of the application being submitted at 23 Maple Ridge Road. I oppose the application of the variance that reduces setback on the property located at 23 Maple Ridge Road. I base my disapproval on many factors. First, the existing structure is not undersized for the neighborhood. This is, according to her, a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home located at the end of a dead-end street. The existing home is comparable in size to all surrounding homes in the neighborhood. According to the standards to grant special exceptions, structures will not be designed in a manner which is not comparable with the character of the neighborhood. Secondly, there is no hardship in April of 2017 when Mr. Vasquez purchased the property. Thirdly, the application states create better open air space in existing residence when extra constructed square footage is added to the land does not create less open air space. I believe the motivation and reasons for an addition at this residence is far greater than an extra bedroom. Mr. Vasquez's property allows other options within the setbacks allowed by the zoning. Thank you, Cheryl Andrews, 11 Farm Street. Is there anyone else to add to this? Is there anyone else in opposition here to speak? Okay, would you like to address some of the issues that Ms. Andrews raised in her objection in her letter?
Sure, yeah, so again, the only pieces that are really for that are in the setback are just these 2 corners. Everything else, without those 2 corners, everything else would be fully compliant and within those setbacks and be able to accomplish. What that changes is the spaces that we're trying to create for the condition that that they're in right now. Those 2 points really allow for everything in space planning to change in there, and creates that ultimate space that they require to have to grow into.
Do you have any idea, there was obviously a court process involved here. Do you have any idea when that began?
I do not. I could
Okay.
check back with them. I didn't get to too many personal questions then.
Yeah, sure. I was just
Regarding
curious
what
as to whether,
Yeah.
when they purchased this home in 2017, this particular issue had come up yet or not.
I don't think
just
so,
curious.
given the age of the son.
Okay.
I'm assuming no, given how old he is.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And also, he should. We're not increasing bedrooms either.
Yeah.
She said 4. The letter said 4 bedrooms. This is a 3-bedroom. It's 3-bedroom residence, staying in a 3-bedroom residence.
Yeah.
So it's not more space to add occupants. It's
Yeah.
more space to adjust to the conditions that they have at the moment.
I guess this might be called a leading question, but when you put in the application creating more open spaces, were you referring to outdoor open space in the
Yes,
land set asides or indoor open space?
indoor open space.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah,
all right.
more. Yeah,
All right.
just clear spaces inside, just for maneuvering and things, not to bump into furniture and
Okay.
all that, comfortable spaces. Yeah.
Okay. Before we close this hearing, does anyone else on the board have any further questions occur to them?
I'm looking at the maps of all the houses, the sizes around there. This probably would be the biggest house, but not overwhelmingly as big. I wouldn't want to be the biggest house in the neighborhood, but if they like the neighborhood and, and it's within the confines somewhat of the rest of the aesthetics of the neighborhood, then I guess, so be it, yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Is there a motion to close 21-27?
I make a motion to close 21-27.
All right. Motion by Mr. Hannah, a second by.
I second that motion.
I think that was Mr. Rivas. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Hearing is closed. Is there a motion to go into a voting session on 21-27?
Make a motion to go on a voting session 21-27.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Hannah, a second. Second by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have pretty much thoroughly discussed this. Any other discussion on this application? Would someone like to make a motion? I think maybe if you stop sharing your screen, we won't be so distracted. I don't know what's happening here, but if you want to stop sharing, that would be helpful. Okay. I'm not really sure that's the case as what that is. We're just shy tonight. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve 21-27 West Joanne C 23 Maple Ridge Road, RA 20 zone, reduce minimum side yard setback 15 feet to 6.9 feet, increase maximum building coverage from 20% to 23.7%. As per plan submitted, they just claim they're not adding any bedroom, but just open a space.
I might suggest one addition or condition to that, Joe, and that is there's going to be a revised plot plan, from what I understand, which will show include that additional front porch coverage Even though it doesn't change the total coverage that's on the application, if it's per plan submitted, I'd like to have that in there as well with a revised plan. Just a caveat to provide that plan, something along those lines.
You mean as per revised plan,
Yes, which would include the front porch area.
including the front porch area as per revised plan
Thank you.
for the property?
Right. Okay, motion by Mr. Hannah. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, I think Mr. DeLucia was the first second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let the record show that that was a unanimous decision. All right,
Very
next
much,
up.
everyone.
Okay, next up is 21-28. Solomine Construction, John Denise Contractor, 17 Robin Hood Road, reduce minimum side yard setback from 25 feet to 15.2 feet. Anyone here to speak to that?
Good evening. How are you, everybody?
All right, just please, state your name as well for the record. Thank you.
My name is John Denise. I am with Solomon Contracting, representing Mr. and Mrs. Palladino for 17 Robin Hood Road.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm here today to ask for approval for a side setback reduction for a very small addition to the Palladino's home. Is in the rear of the property. Unfortunately, being that it is a corner lot, we are non-conforming currently and asking for the reduced setback to allow for them to have a little bit more of a real dining room for their family. And the property is currently on the corner of Robin Hood and Little John. The house is already sitting beyond the approved setback currently. It's a very small addition, 12 feet back by 8 feet across. Unfortunately, in the back of the house, and I can show you some pictures if you would like them,
Okay.
but the current back of the house, it doesn't allow us to add onto it within the setback because the current kitchen is there, and that would mean, having to do a much larger remodel for the family. So we believe it's hopefully quite a simple request on our end, and hopefully the documents that we provided show that as well.
All right. So there is, actually, from what the existing, let me look at this, what the existing corner is now, that's at 16.1 and you're looking for 15.2. I'm just wondering if there could be just a slight jog and still line up with the kitchen and all that to make the dining room and at least not exceed what's currently there.
So I'm gonna show you some photos if I can.
Okay.
Hopefully, I don't know if this is gonna work or not, and I apologize for the lack of sophistication. It's not my biggest forte. I'm used to doing this in person, but this is the existing home. If you see the end of the house where the window is there in that photo, and then if you see the next picture coming across where the kitchen cabinetry is right there as well, it really doesn't give us too much of an allotment.
Yeah,
Is that better?
nah, we can't see anything.
Yeah.
You don't have a plan for that addition? You don't have a plan? Can you share?
Yeah,
the
we did
plan?
submit, we did submit a set of drawings for that. But the drawings were only for the addition, did not include any of the existing home. I can, like I said, I can send these to you if you would like them,
Yeah.
if need be.
Yeah, we would like to see a plan and where it's showing the house and where the addition going. We would like to see that.
Well, I have.
Well, the
let's see.
plan does, I thought the plan does show where the addition is going. Would you like to see the existing kitchen and how it impedes
I wanna
anything
see
else?
the existing house and where the addition goes. That's what I'm.
Okay, we would be more than happy to provide that.
Yeah,
Well, I can click through a couple of things that was part of your application and see if that's enough or not, if by sharing my screen, if you
Yeah.
like.
maybe
All right.
that's the way.
Okay.
I just want to add, the house doesn't run perpendicular to the neighbor. It's a little bit slanted. So as you build up the back, it's going to increase the setback that's needed to. I think for that reason, I think we're going from a 16.1 to 15.2. We're giving up 1 foot setback.
Correct.
Very, very minimal.
All right. Well, this, I don't know if it helps as far as alignment with the kitchen, but this is one of the things in your plans. I don't know if that's the one that's.
Sure, and if you, right, that existing, if you look at the left part of it where it says existing window and residence in the window there, that was the photo that I showed, and directly to the left of the window, about 6 inches is upper cabinetry. So that's why we tried to design it the way we did, to not have to impede on extra costs of doing their kitchen over again, which was just done about a year ago by us, by the way.
All right. Well, if we go back to here, let me just get it lined up.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So here's the proposed up here.
Yep.
Here. Yeah, so even a little slight shift in this direction to not exceed what's the current corner of the house here, that's just not doable. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? If we brought this down just slightly so that this corner was the same distance as the existing corner of the house itself is.
I think we're going to end up, I mean, we're only going 8 feet wide. So if we were to do that, you know, and have to lose a foot to a foot and a half, say, of overall space, it's such a small project. It may mean the difference, quite honestly, between them feeling that it makes sense to do or doesn't.
All right. Yes, having 2 road frontages is a hardship. I wasn't quite sure how that related to this project you're doing here. I mean, you're not trying to do something in either of these front yards. This is all about the side yard.
Right. Well, correct. Because what we're doing, I mean, it's basically they don't have a real dining room in their home. So doing it in the front, you know, doing it off of the kitchen, it makes the most sense. Obviously, to the left of where we're looking to do is where the kitchen is. To the left of that is a bathroom behind there. So it really isn't conducive from a functionality perspective to put it in any other location in the house without doing some sort of major renovation, you know, to reconfigure their whole floor plan on the first floor.
Okay. Did that help, Joe? You need something else?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Any other
Thank you for your
questions?
assistance on that.
Okay, no problem. It comes with the, it's part of the package. Any other questions from the board? Anyone here to speak else? Anyone else here to speak in favor? I'm trying to say. Anyone here to speak in opposition? Okay, with that said, is there a motion to close public hearing 21-28?
I make a motion to close 21-28.
Okay, motion by Mr. DeLucia to close. Second,
I second that motion.
Okay, Juan, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's move into the voting session. A motion to open voting on 21-28.
I make a motion to go into voting session for application 21-28, 17 Robin Hood Road.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sibbett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're all in favor. All right. Any further comment, questions, concerns, or motions?
I make a motion to approve 21-28, Salamine Contracting, John Denise Contractor, 17 Robin Hood Road, RA 40 zone, reduce minimum side yard setback from 25 feet to 15.2 feet. Actually, the house existed at 16.1 inches, I guess. So it's only 1 foot increase in the footage. As per plan submitted, is a very minimal addition. People need a dining room in the home, and is not intrusion in the neighborhood. The house, I think, is the corner property over there, the hardship, 2 streets, have 2 front yard, 2 side yard, as per plan submitted.
All right. Thank
Second.
you. And second by Mr. Sibbett. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show it was a unanimous decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Moving on to the airport, or near the airport, 21-29. This is Bernard Curry III. Location of property is 7, 9, 13, and 15 Myrie Brook, aka Parcel 1, and Sugar Hollow Road, and Parcel 2, 15 Myrie Brook Road. And there's several things to be discussed. So is there someone here to speak on behalf of this application?
Hi, good evening, Chair. This is Megan Miles for the record.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
So for the record, I am a land use attorney at the law firm of Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy with an office at 707 Summer Street in Stamford, and we represent Bernard F. Curry III. He is the CEO of Curry Automotive and is the contract purchaser of the subject property. The property, you listed the addresses, it's at the corner of Myrie Brook Road and Sugar Hollow Road. Through discussions with the city, it seems like it's really just known as the Sayers property. You may know it as the Sayers property. But for the last few years, it's actually been owned by Sugar Hollow Land Development, LLC. So we are here tonight requesting 4 variances. I will not list all of the section numbers, but they are in connection with redeveloping the property as a Mercedes-Benz sales and service center. And I will provide additional details on that shortly. I will be the one presenting tonight, just me, but I do have the full team on the line should any board members have questions about the development. My colleague, Michael Sweeney, is on the line from Carmody. We also have Bob Carinci. He is the COO of Curry Automotive. He's really the one who knows how all this works. Michael Lambert is our site engineer. He is from Civil One. And then Mike Kozlowski of Claris Construction. I have some really nice renderings to show you, and his company put those together for us.
Thank you.
So,
all right.
with that, I'm going to give a brief introduction on the applicant, and then I have a PowerPoint presentation where I can show the property, the development, and dive into the requested variances. I think this is my first time before this board, and so I know boards typically appreciate brevity. That will be the goal of this presentation. I do have 4 variances though, so it will take a bit of time. Bear with me, but interrupt me at any time should you have questions.
All right. I hope all of us thoroughly read the narrative because it was good reading.
Okay, good.
Okay, but yes, go ahead.
Some light reading. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Okay, so as I mentioned, the applicant is Bernard F. Curry III of Curry Automotive. Curry Automotive is a full-service auto retailer. They also are involved in commercial real estate and ownership. So that means they own the properties that they operate on. That means they treat them and care for them like a property owner, and that they're actively involved in the communities that they operate in. They currently own and operate 12 dealerships in New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Georgia, and they're both domestic and imported cars. This one, the intent is that it will be Mercedes-Benz, so imported. Okay, so with that, I will share my screen and dive into the property. Let me see here, share. Okay, can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So this is the property here. It is, as I mentioned, it's at the corner of Sugar Hollow Road and Mirrybrook Road. It is zoned light industrial, IL 40. So it's approximately 2.5 acres. Just adjacent uses, it's right near Route 7 and the off-ramp from Route 7. The off-ramp spills out here onto Sugar Hollow Road. Let me zoom in a little bit here. You can see that nearby uses are really, I mean, it's right next to the airport. Nearby uses really focus on aviation uses. There's also Patterson Supply. Across the street, directly across the street is a public park and ride. And then up north, you have, just up Sugar Hollow Road, you have the Volkswagen dealership, Audi, and I believe I just cut off Porsche. So those are the dealerships right up the street. Also, we'll note that there's a water course that is right next to the property. This is part of Kissen Brook. You can kind of see Kissen Brook actually ropes around here and goes all around the airport. So it's also adjacent to Kissen Brook. So that is the site. Just zooming in on the site specifically. It's a really highly visible site at the corner of some really busy intersections, visible from Route 7, visible from the airport. My understanding is that it has a colorful zoning history under prior ownership, but since 2018, it has been used really for construction, the storage of construction equipment, and the stockpiling of soil, rocks, other construction materials. I just want to note a couple existing structures on the property. I believe a number of these are temporary trailers, temporary offices and the such, but this steel concrete structure here is existing. I believe it's about 3,300 square feet. And I'm pointing this one out because it actually crosses the property line. This, where the dirt ends and the grass starts, that's really the property line, and DOT owns that side. And the structure crosses over it, and part of it is constructed on DOT's property. So that's an existing condition. I think that's all I wanted to address here. Final note is just to note it also fronts on Wallingford Road here, which is a local street. And then I just have a couple images of the existing conditions. This is the view of the site from Sugar Hollow Road. This is from the corner of Mirrybrook Road and Sugar Hollow Road, and this is from Mirrybrook Road if you were traveling east towards Route 7. So I will now turn to the project at hand here. Very recently, I think it was in September 2020, the Danbury Planning and Zoning Commission amended the regulations for the IL 40 to permit auto sales. Up until then, that use was not permitted in the zone. Now it's permitted with special exception approval. So if tonight goes well, we can go on to planning and zoning as special exception approval and site plan approval for this use. But this was a very recent addition to the regulations, and this site was actually a concept site that they reviewed in assessing whether to permit the use in the zone. It was really targeted for economic development, and this was really seen as an ideal site for this use. It's panned out because now Curry Automotive is interested in the site and has put together a couple renderings for concept development and a site plan as we submitted into the record. So I have a couple photos here. So this is the concept rendering of the Mercedes-Benz dealership. This is the view from the corner of Sugar Hollow Road and Mirrybrook Road. So this is from the corner. I'll get to this later, but just want to note the landscaping that's provided along the border, and the goal of that is really to screen parked cars from driving by, but dive into that later. Let me see, I have a couple more. This is the view from Sugar Hollow Road. Just a close-up. This is from Mirrybrook Road, that angle. So this is you can see the service center in the back, and this would be the main entrance. Excuse me. Here,
just a quick question while you're pointing out, is that where there's currently a curb cut already on Mirrybrook Road?
I think
a
it's
fence
pushed
and a
back
gate.
even further.
Yeah, the trucks come and go that are carrying the gravel or whatever. It looks
Okay,
like from the
and
map, it's similar to that. I'm just curious for perspective if that's kind of where it's going to be, where it currently is. That's
yeah,
just for trucks, right?
it's yeah, it's
Okay.
close. I think it's this proposed is even farther from the intersection.
Okay.
But this would be the main entrance for customers and delivery vehicles. So, and this is the only entrance that trucks could use.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is the aerial. Some really creative methods are employed to maximize vehicle storage. So we have it on the roof. Let me see here. So it's really shown here, and then the upper level display. And then this is just back to the corner. Okay. So now to go into the variance requests. We had pre-application review with staff, very helpful, received a lot of input, and the result is this final site plan that is the goal for the development. However, due to various site constraints, to bring this into fruition, 4 variances are required. I can, for presentation purposes, group them into 3. One is to permit parking spaces within the front yard setback and the front landscape buffer. The second is to permit limited vehicle access from Wallingford Road, which is considered a local street. And the third is to permit alternative landscaping in lieu of trees due to the site's proximity to the airport. So first, I will address parking in the front yard. For your background, in the IL 40, a 30-foot front yard setback is required, and of that, 20 feet must be a landscaped buffer, and no parking is permitted in the setback or the landscape buffer. So tonight we're here with a variance request to permit a limited amount of parking spaces within those buffers. We believe these variances are appropriate because this property does face a number of unique hardships. First is that it has 3 frontages, which is extremely unusual. It fronts on Sugar Hollow Road, it fronts on Marybrook Road, and it fronts on Wallingford Road. So the result is that a 30-foot setback is imposed on the vast majority of the property. And then that is actually further compounded on Sugar Hollow Road, because I believe I mentioned earlier that the DOT actually owns to this green line here. So while the pavement technically ends here, for title purposes, DOT considers this line here to actually be the edge of the highway. So while it's grass, that's actually the edge of the highway. So I believe this is about 20 feet. So you have the 20 feet owned by DOT and then another 30-foot setback imposed by zoning, which means that any development has to be at least 50 feet from the road here, which is significantly more than what's, for all intents and purposes, considered to be required by zoning. So those are 3 of the frontages. And then the remaining frontage faces development restrictions because there's a water course right outside the property line here. So we really need to keep most of the development away from that water course. And then also there's the airport right next door. And so that further restricts development, and every design needs to be considerate of the demands and requirements of the airport. So all of these factors combine to really restrict feasible development area on this site. So we believe that what's been requested here with regard to the just having some limited amount of parking in the setbacks is the minimum necessary to permit reasonable use of this property, particularly for this economic development of Mercedes-Benz dealership. So first, all structures and buildings are far removed from the setbacks. So we're not proposing any buildings in the setbacks. It's a limited amount of parking area. The design also preserves the setback and buffer in full on Wallingford Road. So the frontage that is on a local street, we're not requesting a variance on that end. It keeps everything will comply with zoning on that end. And it also keeps vehicle access off of Sugar Hollow Road, which is a limited access highway, and we actually can't provide vehicle access. I believe it's according to state law. So I can dive into that in a little bit. But so that it preserves all of those requirements of zoning. And this use is a very vehicle heavy use. Parking is required for visitors, employees, display, and storage. And Curry Automotive, because they've been doing this for so long and at so many dealerships, are well aware of the minimum number of spaces they need to have a successful site, one that's going to be economically viable. So this layout provides that number of spaces in a layout that also furthers safe site circulation for cars and pedestrians, safe delivery maneuvering room for truck vehicle deliveries, so that all vehicle deliveries are completely off the street. And yeah, so it meets all those goals for the use of the site. And the final note is that in order to clearly the goal of the setback requirement and the landscape buffer requirement is to make sure that you don't have cars right up against the street and that people driving by, there's a nice little separation between the cars and the street just for aesthetic reasons. This design provides a significant robust landscaping along the parking in the setback to shield those spaces from the street so that passerbys still feel like the intent of the zoning regulation is being met. Yeah, so, and if I actually, let me go back here 1 second. Slides.
I have one quick question, Megan,
Yeah.
if I may.
Of course.
Where that parking is that you just pointed out on the Sugar Hollow side, I mean, it's a beautiful design and everything. I can't see any reason to punch hole in this, but you're going to be within 5 feet of the road, the car's parking exactly where you have the arrow there. And that's going to be within 5 feet. Is the topography going to be leveled off somewhat? Because in looking at the property, it dips down a little bit. Now, I guess that's probably a better question for your engineer, Michael Lambert. Is they're going to fill it up, or are they going to bring the grade up to that to match, not match, but at least be somewhat flush with the street, with the
Mike,
Sugar Hollow?
Yeah, Mike, Bob, if you want to jump in and answer that.
Yeah, Mike Lambert, professional engineer with Civil One, for the record. So are we talking about the Sugar Hollow side or the?
Correct, exactly there, exactly right.
It's a lot of that stuff on the Sugar Hollow side kind of has to stay relatively close to what the current grade is. So there is going to be a little bit of a drop off.
Okay.
Because as Megan had pointed out, it's a DOT road, DOT right away. We're trying to kind of avoid trying to do an encroachment permit with the DOT at the moment, or trying to do any construction within that right away.
Mm-hmm.
So as you slow down Sugar Hollow, there is still going to be that drop off, but as you come to the intersection, it is going to be level as it is right now.
Okay.
Right up.
All right.
Okay, I have one more point about this variance request, and then I'll move on to the next one. So I mentioned previously that there's an existing structure that crosses the property line over here as well. That is a legal non-conforming building, and that's going to be removed in connection with this development and replaced with the limited amount of parking on the property and 5 feet from the property line. So it's an alternative basis under Connecticut law to grant a variance when the project will be reducing nonconformities. So that is the case here with the Sugar Hollow frontage. We're granting this variance will reduce significantly an existing nonconformity, where a nonconforming structure will be removed and replaced with significantly less impactful parking area and landscaping on the property and no longer encroaching on DOT property. Just wanted to note that as well. Okay, so I have two more variances to discuss.
Before you move on,
Yeah.
I just had a quick question out of curiosity. How many parking spaces, there's parking spaces on the roof as well? Is that what you had said earlier?
Yes, it's parking storage on the roof. That's correct.
Parking and storage. So in total, how many parking spaces are there?
It will be, in total, including all parking storage, it will be striped for 234 spaces.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a question before we move on as well. Can you delve into the state right away and why it is not permitted to have a entrance on the Sugar Hollow Road side?
Yes, that was actually going to be in my next one about
Okay,
Wallingford Road.
all
So
right, then
happy to.
continue.
So it's not as clear on this, but this green line here, the property line, and I think it actually continues on for maybe about a third of the property line onto Mary Brook Road. That's called a monumented non-access highway line. And when I see that on the survey, I tell my clients you can't provide vehicle access there. DOT is not going to let you put a curb cut in and have cars go in and out. Mr. Hardy might know this better than me, but my understanding is that under state law, that's actually considered the highway. It's a continuation of Connecticut Route 7 because the off-ramp's right there. And so you can only access that road for highway purposes, which is to get on and off of Route 7. You can't access it for just general private commercial reasons. I think only this part of Sugar Hollow Road is like this. I think if you went north, you can access Sugar Hollow Road. I think it's just this very specific area has this state restriction on it.
Yeah, the DOT will never allow that, especially getting ready to go onto a ramp straight ahead.
Yeah, if you know what, I can go here. I think you can see it on this one. See, this is the off ramp right here. Yeah. And so this intersection and this part of Mary Brook Road are also considered the limited access highway area because it's all related to Route 7 and getting on and off Route 7.
Yeah.
So if I answered your question,
Said, that
was a nice segue into my next one. So the next variance request is to permit limited vehicle access onto Wallingford Road. So for background, in order to get a special exception for this use in the IL-40, all vehicle access has to be from a roadway that's considered either an arterial street or a connector street. Mary Brook Road is one of those. I don't remember which one. I think it's a connector street. But so access to Mary Brook Road is permitted, vehicle access, and that's why it would be our main truck access for deliveries and considered the main access for the site. However, here, but here, in order to promote, as I mentioned, safe and efficient site circulation to prevent any backing up on the site and to prevent any backing up of traffic, while we don't consider that to be an issue, nonetheless, to further prevent that, having an additional vehicle access point, at least for vehicles, or at least for the employees and visitors if they need it, but really for moving storage around the site, that type of thing, having that access off of Wallingford Road would really increase the safety and efficiency of circulation on this property. We believe Wallingford Road is appropriate for this use. The roadway only services commercial and aviation uses, and the use will be low impact. It's not going to be a high traffic generator. And again, to ensure that this is the minimal needed to in relation to the variance, it will not be used for trucks. It will only be used for cars. I don't think a truck could even make that turn off the site, so I don't even think that's needed as a condition of approval. It's just not feasible. But that is the second variance request. And then I'll turn to the third, which is the variance request to permit alternative landscaping in lieu of trees. The zoning regulations require landscaping throughout the site, including the installation of trees. And then I believe it specifically requires 21 street trees at this site.
Give me a minute.
Oh, okay. As I mentioned earlier, we had pre-application review with representatives of the city, representative of the airport joined as well, and the messaging was very clear. You cannot have trees near the airport. Our understanding is that it presents a significant safety hazard, first because trees grow into obstructions, and second because they attract birds, which are a significant hazard for airport use. I also understand that this variance request is actually becoming fairly popular for development around the airport. I believe you recently reviewed a variance request and approved one for, I think it was Danbury Proton over on Worcester Heights. So it's the exact same situation here, where due to proximity to the airport, just trees are not permitted. This site specifically is right next to runway 26, I think, and it's in an airport approach zone. So that is a significant hardship on the property. The landscape design, we believe, is the minimum necessary to meet the variance request. There's landscaping provided throughout the site. Parking islands are still provided. It's just they're landscaped with plantings that will not grow into obstructions or attract birds. So that's it for that. I will briefly conclude my presentation and then open it up to questions. To conclude, this is a really highly visible site that's been targeted for economic development for some time by the city. And this was recently reflected in their effort to amend the zoning regulations to permit a new use, which would be a car dealership, which has proven really successful in this area, particularly right up the street with Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche. And so this is a nice continuation of that development. But this property faces a number of constraints that really hinder feasible and successful economic development. It has 3 frontages. It's right next to the airport. It's adjacent to the water course. And one of its frontages, arguably its main one, is actually a limited access highway that vehicles can't access. So we believe that granting all of these variance requests are in harmony with the purpose and intent of the regulations. They promote safe and efficient site circulation for pedestrians and vehicles, and robust landscaping to ensure that all of the goals of the regulations are met, just in a way that allows for feasible development on this site. And again, they ensure the public health, safety, and welfare of the community through safe and efficient site circulation, attractive landscape design, and regarding the trees in particular, for visitors and aircraft of the airport. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation.
Okay, thank you. I have one quick question. Wallingford Road, just to clarify in my mind, that, as you said, would strictly be car traffic, automobile traffic, no trucks. And the purpose of that is just to have just another way in and out besides the one on Myrie Brook Road?
The concern is that if the only access was on Myrie Brook Road, particularly when it's being used for deliveries, that's going to potentially impact the roadway, Myrie Brook Road, and potentially impede customers and employees trying to get on and off the site. So by having an additional vehicle access point for just cars, not trucks, that provides just a really nice outlet if needed for employees accessing the site. Employees move cars around to store them efficiently on the site. So this is an alternative way to do that. Customers to come in and out of the site.
Okay. All right. Other questions from the board?
I have a quick question in regards to the building height and with the FAA. What is the height of the building in comparison to the dealers down the road? Is it going to be taller, shorter than what we have already there?
So the max height is 45 feet. The property, because it's in what's considered the airport transition zone, has its own special height restriction that's based on a very calculated formula on ground elevation and angle to the airport runway. Calculating that is outside my area of expertise, but our surveyors have performed those numbers and confirmed that it's probably still around 45 feet that's required. So it's the zoning, it pretty much aligns with zoning. I imagine that actually, I'm going to show you. This is easier if I show you on the picture. So the other sites, let me see here. Oh, I stopped sharing my screen. Hold on, give me 1 second. I apologize. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so let me see here. Zoom in. So 45 feet is what's likely required for this site. And you can see that this site isn't directly on a runway. It's next to the runway. So if you go up north, Volkswagen is directly on the runway. So their height requirement is either equal to or likely lower than our site. I don't have the exact numbers. This is just a very practical approach to this. So
Megan,
yes. Oop, did someone just?
Sorry, this is Mike with Claris Construction.
Oh, hi.
I just wanted to speak just from my experience with the other dealerships. We did not build them, but we did provide some design services for Audi. I do know that is a 2-story structure that at minimum is probably around 30 feet. The rendering that Megan has shown here today is shown at 32 feet. That being said, it's still very conceptual in nature, but we believe we can achieve the design within that height.
Okay, thank you.
So the actual FHA approval is still pending then as far as the height? Once you've presented your final design, is that accurate?
Yeah, my understanding is that we can't get P&Z approval until the FAA comes through. So.
Any other questions? Anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? I do have a letter from Airport Administrator Michael Safranek regarding their opinion on this. I'll just read this into the record. It's very short, which says exactly this. The airport would ask that you grant the applicant's request. Permit alternative site landscaping in lieu of trees and 0 street trees where 21 are required. This property is immediately adjacent to the airport perimeter. Trees are not compatible with the safe operation of the airport since trees attract birds. Bird strikes and such have caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage over the last several years here at Danbury Airport. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Michael Safranek, Airport Administrator. So that's in the record. Any other comments in favor of this application?
Mr. Chairman, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Like what Megan brought up, and when Curry came and spoke to us earlier, you all probably realize we've been battling with this property for 15 years at least, many hours in court trying to get this to come into compliance. It is the gateway to Danbury. So I rarely speak in favor of any application. I'm not telling the board. Just my feeling with it, going through this thing for over the prior years, this is a really nice proposal, and I think Curry might be a good fix. But like I said, to put this property to bed would be great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you could have shown renderings of, I don't know, the old Danbury landfill, and we would have been happier than what's been there. So just saying. So, anyone here to speak in opposition to this application?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, let's, it says Paul's iPad. Would you just identify yourself, Paul, and
Be happy to. Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury. City Council, I represent the ward where this proposal is going to be situated. And while I can echo Sean Hardy's comments about the history of the project, the parcel, lack of a project in the parcel, and how the rendering would be an improvement of an order of magnitude that's beyond my imagination. A couple of things need to be discussed, particularly in reference to the 6th Ward and the 5th Ward, the adjacent ward to this project. Ms. Miles had mentioned Proton being approved. And while that's true, at Proton, we're looking at some 24 employees with maybe 38 patients. It's a cancer treatment center. It has a roof that's not a parking lot, but a permeable roof that's actually grassed. And I don't think the parking is more than maybe 50 spaces or something like that. In this particular instance, the roof has, I don't know how many parking spaces, but the entire project is 234. So we're substituting I'm not sure the square footage of the project, but whatever it is, it's going from essentially all permeable to all impermeable in a sensitive wet area. That's a primary issue with me and my constituents, having to do with flooding and runoff. The airport has a channel around it constructed back in the 20s called, I think, the Kissing Brook. It doesn't even look like a river, but it used to be a river, and it's been geometrically aligned to the existing airport now to do the runoff, but it doesn't work as well as it probably should or could. And this is going to add to that issue. So that's one of them. Another issue that constantly comes up on both Myrie Brook and Worcester Heights is the amount of trips. So I'd like the applicant to speak on that, even if it's somewhat outside the purview of tonight's application. The other thing that's of some interest is the fact that a zoning variance, we've heard 3 of them already tonight, and in each case, they were variances for existing projects that would remain regardless of whether the variance was granted or not. This is not an existing project, but a variance granted tonight will go with the lot and not with the project. We don't do, I don't believe we don't do contract zoning. Sean Hardy can jump in on this, but I don't believe we do contract zoning for projects. So if the applicant were to withdraw after the zoning Board of Appeals made the grant, approve the petition, someone else could come in and use the parking on all 3 sides for their own purposes. And the project might not have the same aesthetic visual impact that this one does. And I'm not suggesting that the applicant would pull out, but the possibility exists. So that's an issue. So we've got a couple of things here, and then finally the width of Sugar Hollow Road, as Ms. Miles pointed out, goes farther as far as the state's concerned than the actual pavement. It would not be unheard of for the state to widen that road, and if they did widen the road to the edge of their easement, it would be hard up against the parking lot. So that would be, I think, an issue that the city would have some issue with down the road. And I'm, again, not suggesting that would happen, but by allowing the proposed parking lot to go essentially right to the edge of the existing DOT easement might cause problems for the state and you know, by extension, the city at some point in the future. So if the applicant could address those concerns that the 6th Ward has and the 5th Ward, it would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I just want to be clear on the record. I'm not against the project.
Okay.
I think along with Sean, it would be something that we would really look forward to if it was presented within a relatively similar scope to what was presented tonight. But there are some issues here that you know, while this project would benefit the city and it is a gateway, some of the burden of the project would fall on the shoulders of my constituents. And you know, through me, they're addressing these concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Shanice, I think you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you. Again, for the, oops.
Yeah.
I guess you all heard that, right? I'm Councilman Ben Shanazy. I live at 5 Briar Ridge Road. For the record, as with Paul Rotello, I am the other councilman that represents the 6th Ward. And like my fellow councilmen, I am not necessarily against the proposal, as with the zoning director as well. Anything is better than what's there now. The city had a very hard time with their current past owners. And with the house structure, yeah, it was there just to spite the city. And, you know, it needed to come down 50 years ago. But not to go on what was previously said, I just want to concentrate on some of the hardships that were disclosed this evening for this application. I know there were a lot of other things discussed tonight that's really a zoning issue, and I'll be addressing that with them later regarding traffic and the speed along Sugar Hollow Road. So some of the hardships that were mentioned, the 3 hardships that they were mentioned, I agree. The landscaping, trees, are not warranted there. The shrubs and that is a much better landscape than trees, as mentioned. On Wallingford Road, as you know, Wallingford Road is only 18 feet wide. You may want to check that. I don't think it's city regulations, which requires 26 feet. So being 18 feet, it might have, which primarily that road serves basically the backside of the airport. And currently it has very limited use of the amount of cars that use it. Very rarely you have two-way traffic on that road. So to have an exit for here would be an issue for the city as far as two-way traffic. So then you may need to address whether that road will be widened to city standards. So that needs to at least be considered during your discussion process. The other thing is, as Sean Harity obviously knows, parking on the front lawn. That's always been my pet peeve here in the city. And I'm kind of constantly filing complaints with the zoning regarding that. There's an ordinance in the city of Danbury that prevents parking on the front lawn. And it doesn't specify whether it's commercial or residential. It is prohibited. And it's my understanding that the ordinance will trump zoning and it will trump ZBA. So by city ordinance, your proposal for any parking on the front lawn will be deemed illegal in the city of Danbury. So I would request, at least get a corporate council opinion on that. So I would recommend to the ZBA to continue the public hearing, at least to get their opinion on whether that's true or not regarding parking on the front lawn as it relates to an IL-40 property. So that's probably what I like to say this evening. Again, I welcome the development. I own a Mercedes. I think it's a great car. I think this could be a very well improvement to what's there. But like Councilman Rotello said, I think we just need to work together so it meets all our needs and it doesn't cause further issues as we go down the road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak from the city council or any other place with questions or concerns or objections? Yes, Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, commissioners. I'd like to just echo some of the things that were said by Councilman Rotello and Chinese. I too am concerned primarily with the parking issue. Like Attorney Miles mentioned, that this site is highly visible. I mean, if you were to drive down Worcester Heights and look down, you could see that whole site plan. And with all of the parking spaces that are proposed, I think it would take away from the character of that street with the existing auto ship dealers, Audi and Volkswagen Porsche, by having all of the extra parking surrounding the entire building, where the other two dealerships do not have that. So I think it would take away from the actual aesthetics of what we would consider car dealerships on that particular road. I'm in agreement with all of the different types of landscaping. I understand the concern from the airport administrator to keep all of those types of plants to a minimum. I'm all for that, but I am very concerned about the visibility of the parking places surrounding three sides of that building, in addition to potential increased traffic up and down Worcester Heights, which has always been a concern for the constituents of Danbury's Fifth Ward. I didn't see a sidewalk either. The other two dealerships do have sidewalks, but I didn't see a sidewalk listed in the schematic. Maybe I did miss that. But as far as Councilman Cindy said, we have been fighting parked vehicles on front lawns in this city for quite some time, and I would hate to see something like this set us back with that whole quest, with that whole challenge. That's really all I have today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else interested in speaking with questions or concerns? Okay, with that, If the applicant would like to address some of these questions and concerns, this is your time.
Yes, so I wrote them all down. I don't think I missed anything, and I'll address each in turn. First, just want to make clear for everyone that this application, if approved, we still can't build this dealership. We have to still receive a number of approvals from zoning to go forward. We have to get wetlands approval because of the proximity to the wetlands. We have to get site plan approval, special exception approval, which is a public hearing from the P&Z Commission. We have to get a certificate of approval of location for the service center from the P&Z, to get that from DMV. So we have, and FAA for the building height. So this is the first step in a very long permitting process, multiple components of which, at least P&Z for special exception, will involve a public hearing. First was Chairman Rotello. I missed your last name initially, but I believe it was Rotello's, Councilman Rotello's comment about concerns about Kissen Brook and the nearby brook. So currently, I highly doubt there's anything in place to protect that brook from runoff to this site. I would be very surprised if anything was installed. We'll have to go to wetlands in connection with this application, and a robust stormwater system will be installed. It still has to be engineered out. That'll happen as we get closer to P&Z, but a robust stormwater collection system that will drain all stormwater away from that brook, and the installation of mitigation measures to prevent any runoff into the brook will be installed and will be a significant improvement from existing conditions. So this development should improve existing conditions as to concerns regarding the brook. But as I said, we have to go to wetlands for that. We'll have to file an application. Wetlands will review at a later date, but that concern will be addressed. Second, and this was a concern of everyone, is traffic. And in connection with special exception approval, they will review traffic. And we'll have to put together a traffic report and submit a traffic report. I think it was optional, actually, but now having heard your comments, I'm going to recommend to the client that a traffic report be studied and prepared and submitted into the record. And if the traffic engineer does identify concerns about potential traffic impacts, the mitigation measures will be implemented to prevent traffic impacts. Again, this is not a ZBA issue, it's a later P&Z issue, but that will be studied, and if mitigation measures are needed, they will be implemented. And if there's a serious traffic problem, we're going to have a major uphill battle at P&Z. So that'll happen. Question about if we get variances and leave, those run with the land. So you're correct that variances run with the land, but I'm not sure if this is the case with Danbury. Usually variances are approved in connection with a site plan. So you can only build the variance of the site plan. Even if that's not the case in Danbury, hardships run with the land too. So a variance granted with the land, just because the development doesn't happen and the property owner leaves, the hardship still exists. That doesn't change, and the variance would still be granted in the future. And that's why when ownership transfers, variances stay valid, because the hardship never went away. It's still existing. The site is still going to have 3 frontages. It's still going to have an adjacent watercourse. It's still going to have the airport. So all of that continues. That's the nature of variances. I will say that Curry is really committed to this project. They're under contract to purchase. They're soon to close. I don't see that as a potential in the near future, but I completely understand your concern. But it's the nature of variances. They do run with the land because hardships run with the land. Width of Sugar Hollow Road was a concern, and if DOT hypothetically expanded the highway, which they may have the right to do, even if they expanded the highway, there's still going to be a 5-foot buffer between the roadway. And so portions of Sugar Hollow Road will be, let me back up. The request for the 5-foot variance is only on a limited part of Sugar Hollow Road. It's not the whole expanse of Sugar Hollow Road. And the 5-foot buffer will have additional landscaping blocking the parking. So there will be parking, but there's still a 5-foot buffer. And DOT can't, I mean, it's not their property, so they can't restrict what's going on next to their property, next to a highway on private property. So it is 5 feet from the roadway, but it's going to be nicely buffered, and it's 5 feet. It's not against the roadway. It's not on the roadway, but that's why you can't have vehicle access onto Sugar Hollow Road, because vehicles accessing the road could be a problem, but keeping them buffered from the roadway shouldn't be a problem. I think that those were responses to Chairman Rotello's concerns. Councilman, sorry. All right, so Councilman Chianese, I think that's how I pronounced the name. I got it wrong too. You mentioned how Wallingford Road is only 15 feet, currently very limited use, and consider widening the roadway. If that's an issue, it will come up as zoning, and we will have to address it in connection with special exception and site plan review. That'll also come up in connection with the traffic report if there's concerns about the impact on Wallingford Road. So again, that will be reviewed. And then a couple comments about how there's a city ordinance about parking on the front lawn. This would not be I don't know the details on that ordinance, but I know that this would not be parking on the lawn. I imagine the goal of that is to prevent cars parking on grass in front lawns where there's a nice grass front lawn and people are using it to park and store their cars. This variance request is to specifically prevent that situation. It would permit the construction of a surface parking area that's striped, that's landscaped, which would prevent parking on the front lawn. It would provide a front parking area, but it wouldn't be commercial customers and vehicles just parking on the front lawn. It would be a very distinct parking area that that is safe and shielded aesthetically, which is a nice balance between the city ordinance preventing parking on the cars and commercial development. Let me see here. Traffic. I think the last thing was a concern about the number of parking spaces and particularly how highly visible they will be. As I mentioned earlier, this use needs parking, and Curry knows the number of spaces that are needed to make a successful dealership to actually make this use work. The site has 3 frontages, which is one of the reasons why it looks like there's a lot of parking, but that's why we added the landscaping to aesthetically shield it. I don't believe this site would be feasible as a dealership if there wasn't the storage spaces that are currently put on the roof. And we feel that's actually a really creative solution to the parking problem, where normally this use just wouldn't be viable. By constructing the storage parking and parking areas into the roof, that makes this a viable site for this use, but keeps them, you can't see them from the roadway, and it keeps them shielded. So I think it was actually a really creative solution to a problem with getting this use viable on this site. The other dealerships don't have it. They might not have needed it, but it might just be a new solution that people came up with, and they might, I don't know. So also, I think that site is 3 dealerships in one, so it's actually a very large site as well. So I believe it's larger than this site. I think
There was a question raised by, I think, maybe Councilman Perkins about sidewalks, which are typically required with new sites. I don't know if that's not there yet. You'll encounter that with other commissions or boards. I don't know, but I know he raised that question.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe we have a sidewalk.
Yeah, Megan,
Yeah.
I can answer that.
Okay.
Mike Lambert again. So we do have sidewalk completely across Myrie Brook and Wallingford Road. I know at the corner of Sugar Hollow and Myrie Brook, there is a pedestrian light, and as well as a kind of a sidewalk ramp that kind of goes nowhere. We're going to extend that across our property, and then going to make a right turn up Wallingford Drive or Wallingford Road to connect to an existing sidewalk that goes pretty much right up to our property line. So there is going to be a sidewalk on the 3 roads. There just won't be any sidewalks on Sugar Hollow.
Why not?
Why not Sugar Hollow?
Yes.
It's a state highway, and just with the elevation differences that's going to happen between the road and our site, as you kind of drive up the north side of Sugar Hollow, that road elevation just kind of creates a challenge, and it would end up becoming a kind of dead end because there is the airport almost runs up to Sugar Hollow, and there would be no, it would not be feasible to be able to extend that sidewalk from our site to the north side of the airport.
I don't agree.
It's
So is this the portion of, Mike, is this the portion of the property that is near where the 3 display cars would go?
Yeah.
I don't have the site plan in front of me, so
Yeah.
Yeah, so as we kind of go kind of north on Sugar Hollow, and we come to that intersection of the off ramp from Route 7 and Sugar Hollow, on the opposite side of that intersection, kind of towards our site, is Kissenbrook, and there is a significant drop off right just beyond where the existing guide rail is. There really is no flat area that's going to be wide enough to be able to actually construct a 5-foot wide sidewalk to actually be able to get pedestrian access along that roadway.
well, like I said, I don't have the site plan in front of me, so I can't picture in my head what it looks like.
Attorney Miles, you want to bring that up for a
Yeah,
second?
let me
Okay.
share my screen here. 1 second. Ooh. Okay, let me go this site plan. 1 second. Oh, can you guys see this?
Nope.
Oh, shoot. Okay, give me 1 second.
We had it for a second there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Okay, now can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I believe the area at issue is up here. And I believe Mike's point is that sidewalks are being provided if feasible with the topography. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, and so as we get closer to the property line on this side, which is adjacent to the state highway line, it drops down towards the brook. So there's a concern that installing a sidewalk over there either wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing, or it wouldn't be safe, or it's really not.
So if there's a sidewalk in front of the Volkswagen place, they got to walk out in the highway because you won't put a sidewalk in, and then they come back on the sidewalk in front of your building on Sugar Hollow Road. That's what you're saying.
Megan, can I share the screen real quick?
Yeah, I'll stop sharing. Go ahead.
All right, so hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
So right here, we're at the intersection of the Route 7 off ramp and Sugar Hollow. Kind of looking at the screen, you can kind of see the stone piles, and that's our site. And kind of directly in front of me, where you see the open speed sport sign, that's Kissenbrook, and that really, the land really drops off in that area. And as I kind of turn further, there's a Jersey barrier
Okay, I understand that.
ramp, so there is no way for us to
Right, okay.
possibly connect to the other dealerships.
Can you go back to the left? Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, there's no way with the topography, even,
Yeah,
even,
yeah, no, it's just that when they showed it from one of the other pictures, it looked like it was a lot closer. That's why I was saying what I said.
Yep. No, I completely understand.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? I do have one question, and Sean, I'm not an attorney. You're not an attorney. And that's the point that Councilman Genese raised about an ordinance versus a zoning variance.
Mr. Chairman, this is my opinion as a zoning enforcement officer for the city of Danbury.
Okay.
The ordinance was driven off of getting people off of parking in their front yards, which means their grass, their lawns. Even the ordinance reflects back to the zoning regulations. A yard is described in the zoning regulations. The only one with the authority to vary the zoning regulations is the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I don't see this ordinance usurping the power of the Zoning Board of Appeals to vary zoning regulations. If the zoning regulations was the basis for the ordinance being created, you are now modifying that zoning regulation. So in my humble opinion, I'm not an attorney, but I am the zoning enforcement officer. I do not think that the ordinance restricting parking in lawns in the front yard would restrict the Zoning Board of Appeals from issuing a front yard variance.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, I agree, Sean. I think if anybody, the DOT would be the one squawking more than anyone.
Okay. Any other questions before we close this hearing? Okay. Is there a motion to close hearing number 21-29?
Make a motion to close 21-29.
All right, motion by Mr. Hannah. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The record show that was unanimous. Motion to go in voting session, excuse me, on 21-29.
Make a motion to go on voting session 21-29.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I was concerned, I think I'm, based on Mr. Hardy's humble opinion, less concerned about the ordinance versus variance, since the genesis of that ordinance is the zoning regulation itself. I guess we'll find out if we have to get attorney involved later, but I'm happy with that answer at this point. Any other comments or questions, things that any of you guys on the board would like to raise, since it's now closed and we're ready to go into voting session? Anything else? We are in a voting session. Any other comments?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Is there a motion to be had here?
I make a motion to approve 21-29 Curry Bernard F. the third contract purchaser, 7, 9, 13, and 15 Mary Brook Road, Sugar Hollow Road, and Mary Brook Road, IL 40 zone. Per plan submitted. It will be a great
Progress.
great progress for that corner of Danbury.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, okay, so that's
I second.
Second for Mr. Hannah. Just before we vote, as a matter of discussion, just before we vote, we love our brother and sister commissions and boards in the city. And as Attorney Miles mentioned, many of the concerns that the three councilmen had did give me some pause. But I think between all of the many processes that happen going forward, if we were to approve this or grant these variances, there will be those protections and other opportunities for public input as well. So I'm very satisfied with all of that. So with that said, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No opposition? Right? Yes, that's it was unanimous. Unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Now the room will empty. So, all right, next up, we're getting there. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. Continued or carrying on from what didn't happen at the last meeting. This is 21-24. James Magner, 4 Lake Road, RA20 zone. And there's a number of variances asked for here as well. So Mr. Magner, I guess you're here this evening?
Yes,
So-
sir, I'm here.
All right.
James Magner, 4 Danbury, 4 Lake Road, Danbury. So I'm requesting permission to do a 6-foot front porch that wraps around the side of my house and the front of the house. The setback is 30 feet, and I'm requesting to go to 27.8 feet. I'm also requesting permission to go from 15 feet to 8.2 feet on the side yard, and the other side yard from 15 feet to 8.9 for an existing balcony. A drainage pipe, 4-inch black drainage pipe running to the street, and to reduce the bottom edge of the excavation from a minimum 5 feet to 0 feet.
Okay.
So my hardship is my front door is on the side of the house and it's 5 feet off of the grade. So I need some platform to actually enter the house. And if you come out the front door, which again is on the side of the house, if I had stairs immediately, it would be dangerous. So I'm also across the street from the lake. I'm about 300 feet off the lake. And the front porch would be a perfect place to be able to view the lake. So I'm looking for permission to do the side porch and the front porch in order to view the lake. Yeah, there I am.
All right. So your hardship is, it's a big step to your front door?
Well, it's 5 feet, so there's no other way to get into the home unless I have some kind of porch here. I also have my mother and my mother-in-law in wheelchairs, and I would like to see them be able to sit on the front porch and be able to view the lake. I need 6 feet in order to have a chair and get around the wheelchairs or other chairs that might be on the front porch. Right now, the whole yard is just a slope to the street. So it's like the topography is just pitched from the back to the front. So I'm requesting these retaining walls in order to have some kind of level surface to walk, to sit on the concrete patio, and also to park a car. Right now, the way it is, this driveway, which is an old paved driveway, you can only have one car for parking. So the rest of the cars would have to be on the road. So I'm looking to clear out the dirt that's here, this big mudslide, and build a retaining wall here so I can get 3 cars in the driveway.
All right, well, I have a few questions. The others may as well. I guess to say that this is a mess would be kind. I know it was a mess when you purchased it. I don't know how or why you got as far as you did without getting these required variances. So it's always a little more difficult for us to deal with someone who's done work and then we're being asked to fix the problems that they created for themselves here. My question is this: you were issued a cease and desist over a year ago, is that correct?
I think it's about, I didn't think it was a year ago. I thought it was about 6 months ago, but okay.
I don't know. Remember, Sean, I don't know if you have it handy.
received my permit January of 2020,
Okay.
and yeah, it was about a year ago, a cease and desist.
So the reason I asked that question is it's taken you a long time to get here to correct this matter. And I guess that raises another question in my mind, which is this. If we were to grant all these variances, what could we expect for a construction plan in order to get this completed in a timely manner?
It'll be done in 3 months.
All right. Well, that would be good. I think one of the things I would suggest if we go forward is that there is a construction calendar plan developed that's between you and the city, be a legally binding document for you and the city to work out what's reasonable. And as a legally binding document, it would be up to the city to obviously enforce that construction project, because needless to say, it's been that way a long time, not all under your ownership, but it's been a long time in that condition. One of the other questions I have is that retaining wall. I don't know all of the materials that might be available to make that look a little better. A stucco facade, textured paint. I don't know. There's materials. But if we were to grant this, a stipulation to create a little bit more aesthetically pleasing wall might be something that we'd want to do as well. Is that something that you would consider accepting if we were
Yeah,
to?
of course. Yeah,
to do
I had
this?
that plan as well.
All right. All right. We do know that the association, as far as they're concerned, has given you permission to do the drainage on the road there. However, that still has is one of the variances, of course. I don't know. I have others maybe, but let me just give the floor to anyone else who might have questions at this point for our applicant.
Mr. Chairman.
One thing, I do apologize to everybody here that it did take so long, especially my neighbors. But the last time I had to go back to Sydney ARAP and get another survey done because these walls were not on the first survey. The last time I went back to him was 2 months ago. He told me it'd be 6 months before he can come out. So that was the delay. And I had to beg him just to get it done. And that was the third or fourth time he had to redraw the plans. And I also had to go to an engineer to get approval on the wall. The town wanted drawings of the cinder block walls. So that was the delay. It wasn't my delay. Believe me, I wanted to finish this house much sooner.
All right.
So I do apologize.
And okay, you're aware that this is a seasonal use property,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And Sean, I was thinking about this. Seasonal, is that 3 seasons, 6 months, 9 months? What does the city consider seasonal typically? Is there an answer? Is there such a thing?
Well, it's the part-time use. Just to answer the question too, Mr. Chairman, was May 11th, 2020 for the cease.
May 11th, okay.
The seasonality of the use is dictated by the health department because there is not a full septic there, and the ownership, I think, was acknowledged when they were purchasing the home that it would be part-time seasonal use. I'm not exactly sure of the dates, but I know it's not full-time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Other questions from the board?
I got quite a few
All right.
questions in regard.
You want the map again?
No, it's okay. I
right.
have I don't need the map for the questions. I guess this question then would be to Sean. If the permit was granted in January and the cease and assist was put out in May, was there any construction done in between those months? Because I'm looking, I went to the property for the last meeting when we were supposed to have the application, and a lot of this just looks completed already. So it looked like either a lot was done in 5 months or it was continued after the order to stop was put in. Another question I have, or I'll let Sean answer if he can.
Here's the thing. This case was Tim Rosati's a case for enforcement, but I'm sure Mr. Magner can speak to it if any work took place since May 11, 2020, when the cease was issued. Because the cease that was issued here, investigation that closes the following conditions exist: point discharge of stored drainage runoff from the property line. Bottom edge of excavation or fill are located less than 5 feet from the property line without approvals and permits. So Tim Rosati, the assistant zoning officer, cited these conditions for his cease. He did not list the setback violations that you're seeing now, but that could have been because you requested the as-built be done. But Mr. Magner, I'm sure, can speak to if any work was done structurally from May 11th till today.
No structural work has been done. I haven't done anything outside except I weed whacked a couple of times and tried to clean up the property, and that's it. Property is still a mess, and I'm looking to clean it up.
I mean, the reason I asked that question is because there's an existing balcony on the blueprint, but on the schematic. But when I went out to the property, that was a brand new balcony that was already built out there. So again, that's why I asked, was there any work done in between this stop order? Because the balcony's brand new, the porch is brand new. Another question I have is that front wall, the concrete wall. There's essentially two walls. There's one that comes about halfway up, and then you have a secondary wall. Is there a reason why that first wall was built in place?
Yeah, I didn't really want to be right against the street. I just thought it looked nicer being back 3 feet from the street. And that wall on the right side comes up about 3 feet, right? And then I thought if I had like a 2-tier wall, I would, I'd be able to get away with that. Honestly, I thought that was like a legal wall to do, like 2 3-foot walls. Because I was under the impression by the building department that you could do a 3-foot wall without a permit. So I thought if I did a 3-foot wall and then another 3-foot wall, but that's why I built it that way.
Otherwise, you have to have engineer rule.
Yeah, well now I do have an engineer's letter for that wall, yeah.
And then the last question I have, or comment I have, it's not really a question. I know that you got approval by the association for the runoff, but there's the only drainage that I saw on the street is a small drain, which is because it's not a public street, but it's a private road. There's a small drainage there. I looked into it. It looks like it's a 4 to 6 inch drain.
Yeah.
With weather that we're expecting, in particular to this weekend, specifically this weekend, we're supposed to be getting 2 to 3 inches of rain. I can only imagine what that road gets when that rain comes in. Now we're adding your runoff into that drain, which levels off at the end of the road.
Yeah.
Which, if you have any type of flooding, you're flooding that end of the road, or at the bottom of the road, which there's a garage to someone else's property.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't agree with that, and I'm against that, even though you got the approval from the association. I don't think that it's just, normally, I believe, and this is just me doing some research briefly, regular storm drain, public street, storm drain is about 12 inches in diameter. We're talking maybe more than half of that, what's on that road there. And it's the only thing that I saw to catch any runoff coming off the property.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a 4-inch pipe, and there is a town drain about 10 feet south of that where the water would catch in that town drain, but it's not really a hill I'm looking to die on. If you want, I'd be glad to rip that out.
That's I mean, my opinion, my feeling is that I wouldn't want that, but The rest of the board has their turn to talk. So that's all I have as far as questions and comments.
Thank you.
I do wonder, yeah, without that, and yes, Juan, what you're saying makes perfect sense. But there's still water that's got to go somewhere. I'm not quite sure how that
No, I understand.
is remedied.
I just-
That may be the lesser of the evils. I don't know. I'm not an engineer in this regard, but I don't know what
Me
other
either.
options. Yeah.
But the side yard is about 12 feet in the back.
Mhm.
And then there's about a 5-foot drop to my neighbor's house.
Could there be, could there be something where some sort of catch system could be in place or put in place to kind of catch that runoff and slowly drain out into that drain? These are other options that, could be thought of or discussed. That's just my comment.
All right. Any other
You-
questions
I
or
mean,
comments?
It's not really a really major important thing to me. And if everybody here wants me to get rid of it, I'd be glad to. But every one of my neighbors has the same thing. They have a pipe that empties into the street, but it's not it's not imperative to me.
Juan, excuse me, are you talking about a detention or retention type system?
Yeah,
On his
something
property?
like that. Yeah, something like that. I don't know if that would be a viable option or not, but it's, I'm just thinking, in particular with the weather we're expecting this weekend, we're, 2 to 3 inches tomorrow, just in the forecast, plus what we get tonight. I'm thinking, for down the line in the future, as far as me, if I approve this, having it come back to me that, we approve this and now we have major flooding on a street, and I'm not saying it's just maybe his house. There may be other houses there, but this is the particular, this is the application that's being presented to me now. I have other concerns in
I think you
regards
bring up
to
a good
the
point.
construction,
I think you bring up a
that
good
was
point.
done.
Juan, especially in lake communities, somehow, whether it's coverage, whether it's, drainage, whether it's, we've been always sensitive around, anything to do with, Lake Candlewood, of course. If there is a solution, I'd be all ears too.
I'll leave it to the board and I'll discuss this once we close it.
Yeah, a retention area would be great. Obviously, there is no room for that. And I don't know, trying to retain water behind that wall, and how that would work. But your point is valid. I just don't know.
I could tell you that Home Depot sells a little dry well, and I think it's about 80 or 100 gallons. And I did think of putting that in, but my first wall, the pipe is about 5 feet below that because of the nature of the grade. And my wall by the porch, that means I would have to be about 8 or 9 feet below grade with that dry well, which I could definitely do. Seems a little dangerous digging that deep, but I could do that, and that would be a solution. It would catch, 80 or 100 gallons of water. And after that, it would probably compromise the wall.
I would give some weight, credence to the fact that the community, the people that live there, have indicated no problem with putting that drain there. I mean, they've lived through obviously a number of storms. So for what it's worth, I don't know if there's any engineers in that bunch either, but it would seem they've had experience with this in one way, shape, or form for all the whatever amount of time they've lived there. So I give that some weight, if you will.
Yeah.
Any other comments? All right. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there no one here to speak in opposition to this application? All right. With that said, is it?
Mr.
Okay.
Moore,
Yep.
Mr. Moore, I believe Mr. Durkin would like to speak. He
Oh,
just
okay.
needs,
Sure.
needs to unmute himself. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Saved by the bell. Yes, go ahead. We can hear you. Yep.
Good evening, Jim, everyone on the board. You have a lot of stuff to say. I own the property across the street and also the property right next door to him. Two pieces. First, Jim, I wish you put me down as one of the abutting property owners. You didn't even, I don't know, if you used a brother-in-law of mine. I don't know how you got his address, but it was hard to get the history. There's just a lot, this property has a long history. But you've raised, starting off, I agree with the drainage. The property association, it really wasn't discussed. Nancy Schneider's on, she's on the board of the Property Homeowners Association, never discussed with her. I'm the neighbor that's gonna affect the most. That was one of my comments. The only drain goes underneath my driveway, which the people I bought the house from installed on their own because their elderly mother lived up in the house and they were concerned about ambulances because it froze all the time. I also have an elderly person. My mother-in-law lives there. And right now the water can't handle it. Just as you mentioned, it's not a commercial, it's a small drain. The grate can't handle the water. Right past our driveway, it starts freezing again in the winter all the time and it can't handle it. The drain, you've built up your property so much. You did the walls in the front and you did the walls on the side of our property, several feet. So there's nowhere for the water to go anymore that you've built it up. The porch on the side, I'm not for. I rather would have saw some arborvitaes. You're extending it right to our property line. It looks into our master bedroom and it looks into the kitchen. I mean, we're only a couple feet apart now. We're close enough as it is, but to send that porch out there, it just doesn't make sense to me. There's no plantings on the schedule. I don't understand it. And the concern is the parking. I agree with you. You say you're going to install more parking. I think that's great because we've blown the house up for a seasonal house. And now with the walls, you can't really park out on the street in front of your house. And it's a narrow road. So I'm not sure if you got all that, but I appreciate you talking to me and listening.
All right. So Mr. Durkin, your property is that across Lake Road from this property or next door?
I'm directly across from him. And also if you're in the road looking at his house, I'm to the right, 6 Lake Road.
Okay. Okay. Right here. I got it. Yeah.
And that retaining wall, he built up several feet, which I didn't understand. And he's built up that whole area and did work. And no offense, I'm not trying to be here, but you've done a lot of work since the stop work order.
All right. What, Mr. Durkin, what was the height of the wall on Lake Road initially before?
The front or the side? The front or the side?
Well, both actually. Before the property was purchased by Mr. Manger.
The front was more very old and natural. If there was a retaining wall there at all, it was maybe 2-3 feet, very small. It was more sloped down to the road.
Okay.
And the runoff, there was more room for runoff. More, it wasn't all concrete patio and everything.
Okay. So
And
there is from somewhere
wall-
came a whole, I'm sorry, from somewhere there came a whole lot of fill is what's happened here to create the need for these walls.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I was to say the side wall, which he raised up on it, was an old wall also that's been there, but he raised it up several feet also, which, I am concerned about that wall with all, if it can handle the weight of going up a couple more feet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
More,
Anyone
can I
else
say
here to
something?
speak in opposition or to comment in any way?
Mr. Moore,
Yes, sir.
can I speak?
Let me just see if there's any other comments to be added, and then yes, by all means. I don't know if Ms. Snyder, the association president, if she has anything, or if she's just listening in. Just want to make sure we get everyone a chance.
I think she's unmuting herself now.
Okay. You're still muted.
Nancy, can you hear us?
I think she's trying to find the
Bottom,
way to do it.
Bottom left corner there, if you can find it. Little microphone.
Might have to tap on the screen so it can prompt up.
Maybe, yeah.
There she is.
Am I
All right,
unmuted?
there we are. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to reiterate, there was no retaining wall in the front of the property. It was a graduated hill that was planted with greenery. On the right side of the property, on the abutting side of our property, there was a very old 1950s stone wall that was added to. Basically, they built it above the existing 1950s stone wall and filled in behind that. All of this property runs southward toward our property. So I hope you can understand our concern in that regard in terms of drainage and that's all I really wanted to add.
All right, I have some confusion about this letter. It was kind of a difficult copy to read, but the letter from your association saying that that you would not object to putting drainage on the street. Was that something that was fully discussed? I'm not quite clear.
No, sir, not to my knowledge. I am the treasurer of the association, and I believe it was signed by the president, who is exiting very soon, and the longstanding secretary. And it was signed by them. It was not, to my knowledge, discussed with the board members. And obviously, as a homeowner south of the property, regarding the water issue, I would not have signed that.
Okay. I didn't know what was just curious. I mean, it's a little difficult to read, but anyway, this was signed by Mark Langley, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
who is the current president.
Okay.
And I think, quite honestly, in all fairness to the current board members who might have signed that, this is a property that has been a blight on the community for a long period of time. And most community members are very excited, as I am, to see it beautified. We'd like to see it done properly and to the effect that, to the point that it won't affect us all negatively, or any of us negatively.
Okay. All right.
So,
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Magner.
Yeah. Could you bring up the map for me again? The
Sure.
survey?
Just let me get back to that. Bear with me 1 second here. I got to resize a little bit here.
While you're bringing up the map, I have a question for Mr. Magner.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that both your mother and mother-in-law are in wheelchairs. That's why you need such a big deck. It's a 2.5-story house. So where are the bedrooms? And how do you get access in a wheelchair to your house?
Up the stairs, on the deck, and into the house.
Up the stairs in a wheelchair?
Well, yeah, we carry them. we carry them up the stairs.
And how long will that last? I ask you because my wife uses a wheelchair and there's no way I could carry her upstairs.
Yeah. Well, they're in their late 80s, so God willing, another, who knows, 10 years, 15 years.
Okay.
Didn't want to cooperate, but here we go. Okay, there you are.
So I'd like to ask the board, I guess, whose wall is this stone retaining wall? It's
You're talking about
about 2 feet on my property. So does that make it my wall?
Yeah, it's on your property line. Yeah, you're talking about the wall that abuts 6 Lake Road.
Yes.
Okay.
So I did build that wall up 2 feet or so with stone that was on my property. And if, if Ray and Nancy want, I'll be glad to take that down. But this area is just going to be pitched even more towards 6 Lake Road if I do that. And the same would apply to this front retaining wall. It was a slope like this right to the street. It was a slope to about here, and then it was a dramatic slope about 6 or 7 feet in. And I put the retaining wall here so I can get 3 cars there. Yeah, I do plan on using the house in the summertime with the family, and I do need a place to park. Seems reasonable. But if Ray and Nancy want me to remove the stone I put on this wall, I'll be glad to. And I'll also agree to put arborvitaes in here. That's really not a problem for me. I think it's a reasonable, and the dry well right here. Right now, the pipe runs from the back right through the driveway and out the wall. But I'll be glad to put a dry well here.
You're talking where, in here?
Right next to the stairs here, there's room to put a dry well, and this is where the black pipe runs. Can you see my pointer or no?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. So if you're looking at the front stairs in the driveway, your pointer was just there.
Okay.
So up a little, up those, yeah, keep going up. There's a set of stairs there.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
So just to the right of that is where the pipe runs under the driveway and out to the street.
Okay.
So it's really not a big deal for me to put a dry well in there.
Would the town engineer know if the dry well could handle it?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if we're going in this sort of direction, I mean, the walls have been required to be engineered. Am I correct, Mr. Magner?
Yes.
Okay. I would recommend that any storm drainage or any sort of dry well be engineered and going through the design engineer who did the retaining wall. Most likely he's a civil engineer. That may be a requirement to make sure that we have a design system so we're not going to undermine anything in the future.
So is it correct that the walls, as they exist now, that Mr. Banger put in, were engineered?
There is a letter from an engineer in the application which indicates, yes. Without trying to read the whole thing, it says, this is from Atlantic Consulting and Engineering in Bridgeport regarding this residence, of course. Based on comments by the Danbury Building Department, we conducted a field and guest investigation at the property. And as a result of that site visit, completed designs for the retaining wall. Some of these walls are to be approved as part of the variance request, and the existing walls have been looked at and appear stable, complying with our design. Construction of new walls shall be certified by this office. We reviewed the site based on a survey by Sidney Rapp. While the survey does not include topography, it is our opinion that the grading of the site meets typical design standards. There is an 18-inch high retaining wall which was constructed over part of the septic area. This will not negatively impact the ability of the septic system. There is a 4-inch drain line going from the rear of the house and discharges into the road. Water from here will form the rain leaders and will be clean runoff. This apparently also needs to be approved by the homeowners association. I think he's probably referring to the letter that was done here. If any questions, please don't hesitate. James E. Quill, PE. I don't know if that helps answer anything or not. Leave some things open too.
So I got a question for Sean now, looking at this and talking about this retaining wall. That permit to stop any work, did that include the retaining wall as well? Or is it just overall construction or the exterior construction that was being performed?
But the only order that can be issued for stop work would be from the building department. What we do, we issue a cease and desist order. The only time that cease and desist order is immediate is during an excavation or a filling process. So I think what Mr. Rosati did when he issued the initial cease and desist order was that we discovered the walls and we were trying to get them legalized. So, and I do remember this site, and I'm glad Mr. Schneider brought this up. I think I issued a cease on this a long time ago against an owner. I think they were called Fury. And I issued an order years ago on this one.
Yes, you did. April Fury.
Yeah, it was a very challenging site, and I know I was ceasing her for they were expanding the site, and it was blight. So I'm glad there is a sordid history with this that Mr. Magner inherited to make this house work. So I'm just letting you know it was on our radar for quite a while, but all of a sudden it just the work exploded, and that's when we kind of slowed everything down. But it's been a work in progress for I don't know how many years, Mrs. Schneider, would you say?
It's actually since the macro burst came through, and it was one of the storms that basically put a tree in and then
exactly
the Furies rebuilt and overbuilt, and they were stopped, and they had to unbuild, and they rebuilt again and were stopped again, and then they sold the property went into foreclosure, and then Mr. Manger bought the property in foreclosure. Right. And has essentially, overbuilt to the same degree that Miss Fury did, but hasn't been allowed to do so.
I only asked Sean because on the schematic for the retaining wall, the start date says 5/19/20, and then start approval 5/20/20. So is that again, was that work done with what this schematic is saying, or did it not start until he came up, because obviously the wall's done. So again, that's my question. And these are my concerns again, that I feel like a lot of this work was done post the Z's order from the city.
I'm not sure, Juan.
Okay.
Like I said, it's like I could refer this to Tim Rosati. I don't want to speak for another person. I'm not sure.
That's fine. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I honestly think you've had some changing of guard at the in the building department during the process. So I don't know the answer to that either.
Well, the fact remains is there aren't a lot of, I don't know how many alternatives we have, but we'll be discussing that, I guess, as we continue and then close this hearing. Problem is, there's no easy fix. There's unless the city condemns it and makes it open space or something, which isn't realistic. So we're faced with several conundrums here, I would say, guys. Any other comments? All right. Is there a motion to close this hearing, at which point that'll be it, and we'll have to make some decisions. If anyone wants answers to more questions, if you want to suggest continuing it, that's up to you. I don't know if we need to do that, but that's an option as well. All right. Is there a motion to close 21?
I make a motion to close 21-24.
Okay. Mr.
Second.
Henry makes a motion. Second by Mr. Sibbett. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All, that's unanimous. Okay, motion to go in a voting session on 21-24.
Make a motion to go into voting session for 21-24.
Okay, Mr. DeLucia's motion, second by
Second.
Mr. Sibbett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Speak up, please. So,
I mean, I'll speak up. I understand that the house was blighted when Mr. Magner bought it, and I understand him trying to beautify the home. I know that they're down 2 houses down. There's another blighted house on the street. So I understand, and here on the ZBA, we try to do our best to accommodate some of these variances and hardships. Me personally, out of good faith, I cannot vote a yes on this for the simple fact that I feel that there is some questions in regards to work being done after the cease and desist was put out, and in regards to that the drainage. I understand that the association had voted or given him the permission for it, but again, I have questions in regards to that. I have questions in regards to the construction that was done at the place, and I'll be voting no. That's my commentary.
there are 5 separate variances on the table here. Front yard setback reduction, reduce minimum side yard setback to 8.2 feet, reduce minimum side on the other side to 8.9 feet, allow drainage discharge, and allow the bottom edge of excavation from 5 to 0 feet for the proposed and existing retaining wall.
And I had a question about the setback on the side yard, we should say existing. We have to get a variance for that? Because if it's existing.
So Joe, 2 weeks ago, when I was visiting the property, I had called Tim Rosati. He said because the property is so old that there is no site plans prior to this site plan being submitted. They couldn't locate anything. So again, that's why I have questions in regards to the construction that was done. I don't know if was it an existing balcony? It could have been. I have no idea.
I actually have prior plans
Yeah. Well,
that were submitted by
unfortunately,
the prior owners.
The public hearing is closed.
Yeah, we can't take any more input now, as far as
So
from public.
that's what I mean. That's what
Yeah.
I got from Tim Rosati.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult, and this is why it's a difficult decision on my behalf. I would like to help out, but I think that there's a lot of questions still left as far as this application goes, and I cannot, in good faith, put a yes on my name with it.
Can I say
Makes it
something?
very difficult.
No,
Okay.
no. We have closed the hearing.
I
Okay.
understand that he's willing to work, with
Yeah.
putting the systems in, retention for the water, possibly removing that first wall, but it's still, there's again, on my personal opinion is there's still a lot of questions left unanswered.
So the house sits? The house just sits the way it is?
Any comment, sir?
Sorry.
How about if we continue this, maybe if he comes back with a civil engineer, like Sean suggested earlier, for the dry well and the walls? Would that be enough to make a difference?
I don't think that's an option, is it, Sean? We close the hearing. Can
I mean,
Just-
like I
just-
said, is there, Mr. Chairman, is there a settlement proposal? Is there a mindset of the board of what they're all thinking that could change the results of your vote? Is there something that, are some of these variances going to fly? And I think that's the first discussion. Is anybody going to be voting for these? Like you said, Mr. Chairman, throw them out individually and see what the
Yeah, let's tick them off real quickly. Let me go back to the list here. We know that, let me bring the map up again as well. Okay, sorry about that. So we have number one, side yard variance, or I'm sorry, front yard setback reduced from 30 feet to 27.8 feet. Well, there it is right there. You can point her out here. This one right here. Okay, that's the front yard variance. Number two, well, okay, front yard variance. Is that an issue with anybody to go from 30 feet to 27.8?
Not for 2 feet, no.
No,
Okay.
I have no issue with that.
All right. And number two is reduce minimum side yard from 15 to 8.2. That would be the one on the north side of the property here, this one here. And then down here, 8.9 for this side yard setback. I think that's for that balcony. Now, I don't know if that was pre-existing or not. I guess it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the question,
Yeah.
when I spoke
right.
with Tim, there's,
Okay.
prior plans.
I
So
don't
this-
know. I don't know if this would be helpful, Mr. Chairman.
I
I think there are plans in the city from the original proposal to rebuild.
Mhm.
We may be able to get them and submit them in, but if that would help the board make a determination whether this was there before or this was there after. Because like Juan's saying, it's if it would be helpful, that's all I'm saying.
All right. It may be. That's something that we could do. The drainage discharge we talked about, we know that there are some strong objection from Juan on that and maybe from some others. And then the other thing is the retaining wall within
The
zero
retaining
rather than
wall,
5 feet. Pardon me?
He offered to take the wall down, so.
Well,
I think he was talking about the sidewall. I have no problem. That first wall, I believe, is unnecessary. If he wants to keep that, the initial wall, I understand you need something to retain that fill, that dirt.
That's right. Mhm.
But I think it's overboard with the second wall. I mean,
No, there's only one wall on the side of the house.
no, I'm talking. Well, it's closed to the public.
Okay.
all right. Well, let's do this. I think we're stretching ourselves out here, trying to make something happen. And I think perhaps Sean's idea is a good one. If we could see, not reopen the public hearing, but suspend the voting until the next meeting to get some data from City Hall on the original plans and specs. And maybe get some data from this engineer. Is that a viable option, Sean?
We closed the hearing. We can look
Yes.
at city records, I believe.
Okay.
Because you could request the council input on this. It is such a broad, you guys are being put in a real tough situation. This is a real bad situation. And I understand everybody's got, you guys are, great board. I think maybe if I gave you the plans that the city has from the original building, which is still relevant, that's not new because it's already in city records. We're not taking in something from the public. I think if we took an engineer report in from the public because we closed, I don't know if that's proper, Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, we've got that option. We've got an option to approve it or to deny it tonight. And I would suggest if we do deny it, we do it without prejudice so that the applicant can come back without any 1-year waiting period and all that sort of thing. So those are the three options. My suggestion is we'll bend over backwards a bit more, get the plans from the city, and then we'll just have to have a up or down vote at the July 22nd meeting.
We can have a continuation, you mean?
Well, we're not going, the public hearing is closed, but we can, I guess, continue our discussion and voting session until the next meeting. Is that a better way to put it?
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So I just,
All right.
like I said, I have
Okay.
some concerns and questions.
Yeah, and I,
Sounds
there's,
good.
yeah, I would like a couple more answers. We're all very,
I'm fine with that.
okay. All right. So I guess let's just make that a motion to continue our discussion of our closed public hearing and do the voting upon completion of examination of original plans at the July 22nd meeting. I'll just make that motion rather than make someone else say it. Second from Peter. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right. We'll come back to this on the 22nd of July. Mr. Supay, 21-25, 33 Robin Hood Road.
Good evening. Robin Hood Road, very busy.
Yes, it is. Busy place. Long meeting tonight for you as well, I'm sure. So you have resubmitted, and I'll bring up the plans if you want me to. You've changed.
Yes, sir.
Changed the design from before. So let's get it up here. Let's see if it pops up. There we are. Okay, so we're looking at a slightly reduced garage proposal, as you
Yes,
remember
sir.
last time. Yeah.
Yes, and I moved it from it being 2.3 feet to 5 feet off the property line. And Sean came out and looked and said that with the topography, that's basically about where it needs to be, so that there's a flat area in front of it, so that if you're pulling in or backing out of it, that you need some flat space. I don't know if any of you came out here. I had it all marked out with ribbon to show the actual body of the garage and the overhang.
I saw it, Chris. Do you have a drawing of a proposed, construction of this garage?
No, not yet.
Because you have enough space here, it could easily be a 4-car garage or, like I said before, it's a beautiful neighborhood. I see you scaled down, from what, 1,200 square feet to this, to 800.
Yeah, it's less. It's getting rid of one of my variance requests. It's going from it'll be under my 50%.
I mean, I like to see something that's aesthetically pleasing, like something like.
Well, it would look just like my house.
Yeah, maybe a couple doors rather than than 4 doors. You know what I'm saying?
No, it would only have 2 garage doors and a man door.
Okay.
So you went from, let's see, the original plan was
1,152.
1150, yeah, down to 840. And I know that was what you had proposed as an option last time. I think there may still have been some concern about even the size of this one. But
I also moved it so that's even with the property line and farther away.
Okay. Yeah, it's now 5 feet from the line there, right?
Yeah, to the overhang, yes, it's 7 feet with to the building.
Right. Okay.
So it's going to be 30 by, I'm sorry.
28.
30 by 28.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, it's
okay. Since this is actually a continuation, I guess it's still appropriate to ask for any other public input as far as being opposed or in favor. I don't see anybody else here from the public on this one, so I guess the answer is there's no comment from the public. How about the board? What say you?
Okay with me.
All right. All right. Any other questions by anybody?
I'm just, as long as it's something, pleasing, like a barn look, like something that will fit in. Not an industrial looking type.
No, like, I don't know if you noticed my neighbors across next door at 31 Robin Hood, but it would look similar to that, except for he only has one door on his where I would have two.
Yeah, it's been a busy street for us, Robin. But apart from the street, we had another hearing earlier this evening.
Yes, I watched Solomon. Yeah, he's like 5 houses up from me.
Yeah.
And the lady's house that you guys are talking about, I understand why they were asking for what they were asking for. So
Okay, motion to close public hearing on 21-25.
Mr. Chairman, just really
Yes, sir.
quickly, when any motion that's made after we close, if you choose to vote the way you do, you have to reflect the new changes in the reading of the approval or denial.
Yes.
Just to make sure that we're reflecting, look to his map and then readjust the request as it is, okay?
So yes, and the way to identify this map, I guess, in doing so is, I guess, just the map that shows the square footage is 840 square feet, the revised plan. Is that kind of enough to make it identifiable? Okay.
Revised plan and then adjust the setbacks as is described in his, he went to us, I think it's from 2.3 to, help me here, Chris.
5 to the overhang.
Just and then eliminate the he doesn't need the building coverage anymore.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. All right. Where were we? We closed.
Motion to close.
Motion to close. Thank you, Mary. It's past my bedtime. I'm not like Joe staying up till after midnight, so
I make a motion to close application 21-25, 33 Robin Hood Drive.
All right.
Road.
Motion made by Mr. Rivas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Aye.
All right. Motion to open voting on 21-25.
Make a motion to go into voting session for application 21-25, 33 Robin Hood Road.
All right. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Comment, motions to approve, deny? No, somebody want to make a motion here? Is there a delay in the relay here? Am I in Pakistan now, or am I? So,
I make a
all right.
motion to approve application 21-25, 33 Robin Hood Road, RA 40 zone to reduce. I have the printed copy here, so it's difficult for me to read the variances here.
Yeah, it would be, the side yard would be to 5 feet now to the overhang.
Reduce the front yard setback from 40 to 33.4.
Yes.
Reduce the rear yard setback from 20 to 5. And that's it, as per plan. We're submitted as a with the revised copy, if that
Right.
makes any sense.
Yeah. would be-
Second.
Yeah, second. Now that also, we need to just mention that we don't have to do anything about building coverage. That's not an issue. Okay, all right.
I didn't mention it just for that reason. I don't know
Okay.
if that was okay or not.
Works. All right. Motion made and seconded to approve per plan submitted and changes.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show that that is a unanimous vote for 33 Robin Hood. So. All right, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Oh, yes. One other item under new business. It's just an update on where we are with having live meetings, not just our zoning board of appeals, but all of the boards and commissions in Danbury. The answer is nobody knows. One of the corporate counsel is working on a way to, and a proposal to perhaps do hybrids. So someone who still does not want to come to the meeting can come to City Hall in a separate room and observe from there or participate from there. Also, the city council chambers are not yet complete. I think they're probably tore it down and it's going to be marble and whatever. It's taking a long time. So all that to say is our situation will remain as Zoom meetings for the foreseeable future, certainly for the July 22nd one. There's been some that speculate probably not till after Labor Day. I just have to say no comment. Okay. All right. Just strictly for information. So that's the new business. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rivas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you
I
all
want
very
to
much.
apologize to the board and to Sean. I should have been more precise on what I wanted to do with that application. Didn't want to put us in a position now where we have to do this.
I feel the same way. I wish I was too. I don't know. It's not one that lends itself to precision. Let's just put it that way. Anyway,
It's a tough one.
I didn't want to be there, but
yeah.
You did
All
great.
right.
You did great.
All right. Yes, sir. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a good
All
night,
right.
guys.
Good night. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.